You're watching Salina Media Connection. Paul Hedlund, professor of business at Kansas Wesleyan University, gave an update on Salina's economy Thursday, October 31st. The presentation took place during the Salina Regional Economic Outlook Conference at the Salina Country Club. The following program lasts about 30 minutes.
Our last formal presentation is from my friend and colleague from Kansas Wesleyan, Dr. Paul Hedlund, professor of business at Kansas Wesleyan, who will give us the local update. Paul.
I'm cross-eyed. I've seen so many charts. I kind of am probably a little bit different in the way that I shamelessly stole the data from Jeremy, and I thank him for that publicly already, okay? So he is a much more proficient table maker and all that sort of thing. But what I did is I live here, and I like to live here, and so I kind of took it from a different perspective. And please, I'm assuming if you live in Saline County, you like living here. So if I don't proclaim to be an expert in all these things, if you find something that I don't say that you think is important, tell me. I mean, I don't care. So I view this as a participatory thing, because what I did was I looked at the data, then I started going out with my little handy-dandy Apple 6 phone, and I took pictures. And then I started tying back to, I believe that we're a very adaptive group of people. And how I come across that is in my former years as not being a professor, I was a consultant that worked, Manhattan, Dodge City, and in this area, and I would do community strategic planning. And one of the reasons that I chose to teach here at Kansas Wesleyan was because whenever I came to Salina, I didn't live in Salina, everybody's planners were open, everybody was ready to get to work, and there was lots of collaboration and that sort of a thing. So that's one of the reasons I, 2006, I chose to move here. And I take that with me through the 13 or 14 years I've lived here, because that's what I see going on behind the data. So that's kind of the history behind what I'm going to show you. And I think I got some examples, but I've got better examples. Please, again, contribute. So a look behind the numbers, I've kind of tried to create something I call a story of adaptation. And the first thing I just want to put out there is I would never, and I'm a marketer and I work a lot with retailing, and so everyone knows that that's just a macro look at what's supposed to be happening with online shopping, which of course would be a detractor from local retail. And so I know that. I mean, I just kind of put that there so you know that I know what everybody says, and I know about Amazon and all that sort of stuff. But outside of that, I still think that we do a heck of a great job here in our local areas. And just a couple of and Jeremy's already pointed this out, but this is a local, population's falling, we know that. Go ahead, yeah, sure.
Just know the scale of that is really zoomed in, and it does not really look that dramatic.
Yeah, I mean,
put it on a zero scale, it would be a lot flatter.
Yeah, but you can see from 56 down to 50. It's some points drop. But this is also something else that, if you've lived here a while, we're concerned about having our young people stay. And that kind of is not a super good deal. But I wanted to start out by talking about some things that happened. I go back a lot of ways because I think it's important to look at history. Way back in the day, of course, World War II, but look at the things that changed during those years. We did not sit as a community and just let it, they closed the base. And there are other communities that I'm from where they closed the base and closed the base, nothing more happened. But look at what's happened to that geographic mass there. And just recently, I didn't get it on here, but there's a new company that's coming to, where's Eric?
Yes.
Eric, what's the company that's coming to us? There's what, 30 to 50 jobs, and
One Vision Aviation.
yeah,
Maintenance, repair, and overhaul.
Yeah, so I mean, I could put 19 or 2019, that's coming. So there's an asset that we're just not sitting on, but we're trying to do things with it. I'll kind of concede she's the presenter from the Kansas knows a whole lot more about it. I just kind of know the local stories there. And there's a healthcare adaptation. You know, the old stories to Salina Regional. Now we've got all sorts of retail stories, and obviously we just Matt just opened a great new building that the local people here are supporting, funding, and we've got KU University of Kansas School of Medicine here. So there's real positive changes going on within the whole structure of various sectors inside of our economies. And that is, I thought, was a really good, I mean, that employment in healthcare locally there, they've gone up. I mean, that's a good jump. Our labor force, we're declining in unemployment and unemployment rates. I don't know, I live south of town, so that was over in Stone Lake area, and they're growing and popping up all over the place. And again, I've lived in other rural communities where they are not putting in whole new neighborhoods, and that's a little bit behind the data that we see there. Total employment rose since the Great Recession. Manufacturing, construction, healthcare continue to have a fairly strong presence. Now, what's interesting is there's new types of businesses that have been existing in, like if I go to Wichita, I'm from Phoenix, if I go to Phoenix, or my grandkids in Salt Lake and so forth, they'll say, hey, Grandpa, take us here, take us there. Well, if you ever been over to visit Sky, it's just a little bit north of tennis club. Thank you, Genesis. And I might also point out, if you ever go in there, there's lots of fun, exciting new things going on there. We visited and took some pictures, and that's a whole new type of business. Just looking into the kind of real estate adaptation. My wife is a Salina Mustang, and she tells me all about how the Mid-State Mall used to be. Well, it's developed. It's still the Mid-State Mall, but it's now a different kind of mall. And heavens knows that when we had the big discussions in our cresses in the 50s, the downtown versus the mall, and that sort of a thing, well, we got a mall, and we had anchor stores, and it evolved. Now, also, it's evolving again. And if you've been by there, and I don't know those people, I took a picture of they've taken the Sears building, and they're building a new entertainment business there. So one more time, it's evolving, it's adapting. So we look at accommodation and food services as growing, and local needs respond, and opportunities happen. This I found to be interesting. I don't know how reliable the KSL quote is from 829, but I've driven it a number of times. The traffic count between intersections of Magnolia and Belmont and the intersection of Magnolia to South 9th is over 1 million vehicles annually. Now, what's interesting about that is typically when you start from a textbook perspective, you have the big mall, the area around the mall should be developed. Well, in the mid-90s, it didn't develop, did it? But in the last, 15 years, how much has that space developed? So we've got Chick-fil-A, we've got Chili's, we've got IHOP, Taco Bell, and my students didn't think that they came to a civilized world until there was a Starbucks in the area. Well, I know tease them. I said, we are civilized. We have our own Starbucks down there. And if you paid attention, we've got Chipotle and Panera, and that whole area has been developed. And that is a form of adaptation. And that's the process that I think that Salina spends its time doing well. Now, true, retail sales are down, and employment in retail declined faster than sales. Again, some more information. But I would I don't have the stats, I can't say this, but I would argue that there are other places in the state that have similar or worse things because of online and those kinds of growth. So the collaboration that we see in our local area here, I think really creates these kind of opportunities. Manufacturing's about the same, maybe slightly lower, but again, we're not on a free fall. And truthfully, this is the one that I'm most impressed with. Just, again, I'm a nobody, but I drive down there and I get caught behind. I can't get through the streets like everybody else. But when you look at what's happening down to the Santa Fe Business Corridor, holy cow, what a really great rework when everybody else is complaining about their downtown. And again, the alley I've got 4 students from Kansas Wesleyan that are, remember, my kids are graduating marketing and management majors, and they're working there. So it's providing new opportunities. We're getting ready to do a fundraiser for one of my promotional classes, and they funded a good portion of some of the raffle stuff that they're giving away. So I mean, I'm already seeing the benefits of stuff like that. And then obviously if you've had a good bite to eat at the Chicago Pizza, and then, gosh, just all sorts of stuff going on. Dagny's, I'm friends with that family, and if you look above, what's interesting is, I don't have a very good picture of it, but Dagny's is down below, the Strombergs, that's their business. If you look straight up above, they have redone about 3 really nice apartments up there, and they don't want to rent them like month to month. They're going into the internet and they're using the VRBO and that whole process to bring in different income opportunities for that. So they're plugging into what's going on worldwide, or at least nationwide. And I think all that is part of the adaptation that we see going on here in our world. And obviously we've got the Field House, which is a great facility, along with the Homewood Suites that is yet to be finished, but yet will be a tremendous hook for the downtown, and really kind of create its own life. And again, I have a lot of friends around the whole area. I can't tell you the number of times that I get friends that come stop by and have dinner with me because they're coming to our Stiefel Theater and they're enjoying the downtown and they eat out here. And this, they can come up to 100 miles away from our Hayes friends and our Great Bend friends and Points East and so forth. So there's lots of exciting things, I believe, that are going on that start impacting good things that we do. And population fell, employment increased. I think that we do a great job of looking at a challenging macro market, but yet we're not sitting back on our laurels saying, oh no, this is going to be done to us. And we, in the micro market, I think our KW, KU, Polytech, USD 305, our area schools, I think we partner with people. And then the Salina, the Chamber, the Saline County, whatever, Street Works or whatever, I don't know them all, I'm sorry. But I think when we sit down to the table, that we start making the Salina marketplace a better place to be, because we know how to adapt to things that are going on that we have no control over. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Paul. I really want to pick up on your last point. Somebody who didn't grow up in Salina, I think it's one of the pieces that makes this community so strong. Not just being adaptive, but the collaborative aspects of what you talked about. How well this community works together to address issues, needs, and to dream about possibilities. We've heard a lot of great presentations this morning and this afternoon. I hope you feel more informed than when you arrived. Maybe not as optimistic in some areas, but maybe more optimistic than you were in other ways. But we do have some time for some questions, and I'm sure my panelists would be happy to take some questions for a few minutes. So I'm going to open up the floor. If you want to just raise your hand, we'll call on you to ask a question of any of our panelists.
Can I make a comment?
Of course.
And I just said something on LinkedIn with this. Do you realize we have KU, Wichita State, Kansas Wesleyan, and Kansas State? Did I say Kansas State twice? KU. K-State twice. But it's great. We have all these universities right here. I just know, reflecting on that, there's all these leaders who all work together just to provide insight. So I thank you for the whole university system. I mean, it's great that we're all collaborating together. I really appreciate that network.
All right, they give you time to think about your questions. Who's got the first one? Yes.
I would like to include Salina Technical College.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, sir.
This is for Michael. I was wondering how the farm economies are affecting the regional economies like Salina, Manhattan, some of the other, or what you have seen as indicators of having effects on those economies.
Well, I'm going to let Jeremy help answer this one because you also monitor what's going on with the local economies. But what I can tell you is that one of the first things to contract when the commodity prices fell was machinery sales. So in a lot of small communities, one of the biggest employers, one of the biggest businesses in town is the implement dealer. And they immediately saw a contraction in sales, which I think trickles down to some employment and things like that going on. So that was problematic. Do you want to add anything?
Say the question again?
He asked how the contraction in the farm economy affects Salina.
Well, so I will go back to the comment when we did this study and said, okay, what does rural affect urban areas? Now, I mean, you're an urban area as well, right? I mean, you're technically an urban area. If it has a 1% decrease in farm income or income in rural areas has an impact on the Kansas City, Wichita, and Topeka, imagine what its impact on this community is. I mean, it's going to be a lot greater. So, I mean, it's clearly going to impact retail sales and the overall outlook.
Next question. Mayor.
Are there any higher thoughts, I'll say it's a think tank table, about how to get that 35 to 40-year-old population to increase its migration back into cities like Salina?
How do we get our young people to come back after they've gone off to college? Essentially, yes. Don't let them leave would be the first step.
One of the areas that has been particularly concerning from a healthcare perspective is physicians and our ability to get that age group of physicians back into communities. They go off and train in an urban residency somewhere, and then we have trouble getting them back. Down in southwest Kansas, they have put together a kind of a unique model where they've identified that the characteristics of physicians who want to do global mission work are the same sorts of characteristics as those physicians who would be willing to come out of an urban area and serve other parts of the state. So they put together a very progressive program that doesn't just allow those physicians time to do that mission work, but includes it in their compensation, provides support to help them identify those mission opportunities, actively encourages it because they feel like it improves the care that happens locally. So in some of these communities, we're seeing them bring 5 or 6 new providers to a community in that very age group because they've really figured out what was that age group looking for that they could add that wasn't available in an urban center.
So the question is about this aging workforce, right? And some of that migration, particularly of talent. What's the problem? Why we had this out-migration? Why was happening to population? Wages weren't going up here. And so the millennials and all these other people who are moving up in their careers sat around and looked, where's my ability to have upward mobility in my career? And obviously when wages were going up faster in Colorado or any other state, they moved out. But the same migration pattern has a fact to come back in. It just was our cycles for the industries like agriculture and oil and manufacturing were just in the wrong cycle that was happening at the national level. We weren't building back up. Now they're building back up. Those wages are going up. They're going to attract more people back. Now I should say, thanks to the Kansas Health Foundation, we have done we do the population forecast for the state for every single county. And just over a year ago, they asked us to do one by race. Let me back up, actually. When we do this forecast, I always make a comment just to kind of make it a joke. When you look at fertility, I always say we're good at making babies in Kansas, and we think everyone laughs and they think it's just themselves, and it's really not. When you start thinking about the fertility, it is because we had this net in-migration of certain segments of minorities into this population. They're having a lot of babies, and they are growing and changing the overall demographic. Do you realize that, not realize, my priority gave away this answer, but put your thumb, get your arms up, ready? Get your arm up, your right hand, left hand, I don't care. And I want you to thumbs up if you think we're older than the U.S., the average age, the same, or younger. Go ahead, put your hands up. We are younger than the nation. Now that reason why is that net migration is of immigrants, economic immigrants, particularly in southwest Kansas. You go down there, they're very young. There's lots of babies. You look at here, this change in population, they're still having lots of babies, and that second generation and third generation is impacting the state. So when you really talk about what's going on, we are a changing state when you think about how the composition of households are. So when I go to that joke of we're really good at making babies, everyone in the room thinks it's them, and it's really not the people in the room that is changing. And they're moving up in their career status. I made some comments about the upward mobility. The question is how much access and upward mobility are we giving some of these people? And you see them migrating from western Kansas into the urban areas, getting degrees, moving around. They're connected. I'm just not sure we have all the resources, but that is part of the, you didn't want all this answer, but that's part of the solution of that working age population that's going to happen for the state in the long run. Yes?
I have a question. Do I need the mic?
Just kidding.
I live in western Kansas, and what we are seeing, my husband's a plumber there, and we are looking for the next generation of plumbers and electricians. And I'm just curious about trade schools and how they're participating in what you're seeing.
Might be a question for Salina Tech to answer.
Yeah, you go for it there.
I don't know. I'm from Salina Area Technical School. You know, we are probably one of the few colleges that are increasing numbers. I think the big thing is the parents are now seeing that maybe their kids don't want to get out with a 4-year degree and have a big debt, and they're sooner putting them into technical colleges. We do have 11 high schools that we work with at 2+2 programs that we're trying to increase our numbers with that. It's still a challenge. I mean, we had a machining class that has 3 people in it. Our nursing program, we just started an RN program this fall, and it's going really well. So that our medical area is increasing. The technical trades, our welding is doing okay. Diesel and auto tech is doing okay, but some of the other ones are just hard to get students still involved with it. I think some of it's the attitude of counselors in high schools, to be honest with you, that they think if you're not college bound, and my child, you know, I thought should have a degree also. And you know, nowadays, I left higher education 25 years ago. I'm back 25 years later, and back 25 years ago, industry was telling us how bad a job we do. Now we have companies coming every week trying to get employees. I mean, they're whining and dining them, they're paying for their tuition, they're hiring them on. Nowadays, kids do not have to go and get any loans. They'll have their whole education paid for as long as they work for a year or two at our colleges. So we are trying to increase that. We need all your help to do that. But I don't know if I answered your question, but that's what we're doing, is really putting a bigger plus and getting out in the community a lot more and making sure people understand we are a college. Thank you.
The construction sector is one of the ones, when you get the skilled side of it, is really tight. I think it was 2 years ago, I brought a whole bunch of people in the construction industry together and talked about the labor market. Because we had a weak economy, guess what happened to some of the labor market in construction? The skilled ones that we had needs for them, but the prices for housing or whatever just didn't have the right price to hire that skilled labor, and we lost some skilled labor in that transition a few years back. But keep in mind, it's all about, you have to think of the bigger picture. Our economy starts improving, prices start going back up, that means we can then start hiring them back and re-engage in that labor market. But the reality is, it's going to go back to the technical colleges to solve this one, since some of them already migrated out and started families somewhere else. It's going to come back to the pressure to train and get there. But the signal to me is always wages. It's going to tell the student, I need to go this career versus another career. And that needs to be there to really influence that shift in behavior. encore answer here.
Well, actually, I think as a whole, just childcare. I mean, that's what we're seeing a lot. There are a lot of those people who have kids and get childcare for that, so we're looking for different ways to have more childcare programs across the way. There have been done studies that there's one slot for every 10 kids out there nowadays. So I think that's a community thing that needs to be really approached.
One more question back at the table also. Sorry, do you have a question?
Oh, no, I was getting her to
Oh, perfect, very good. All right, any other questions? Yes, Paul.
I just wanted to add something to I work with kids 22, 23 all the time, and a lot of them come from Texas, Arizona, California, and a lot of them stay. And I always ask them, why are you here? I don't live and so forth. But what they tell me is that Kansas has got such a great root system for growth, whether it be unique opportunities or people who believe in them. They'll go back to Arizona or LA or Northern California, and they're like a dime a dozen. But they feel a part of something here. And I think the wages, I think the opportunities that we all offer, that's some of just reaching out to them and saying, hey, you're important, and then helping them along moving down the road. That has a huge impact on them as young minds because they want to grow too. And they want to be part of something where they feel that they're a part of the original root system. And we have a lot more kids that are getting degrees for the first time. I had a young man in my office yesterday, same he washed windows in Los Angeles. Now he's got an MBA. He's one of our counselors, Manny. And he is just like in tears over the opportunity he has to be and do and develop and become the kind of person that his dad wants him to be, that's what he told me. So just share that with you.
Thanks, Paul. Well, can we all thank our panelists who give us great insight. Before we close, I'd like to thank all the members of the Kansas Economic Outlook team. This team was established in 2015 and consists of community and business leaders across industries and across the state. The team meets quarterly to discuss local economic conditions and outlooks affecting their community. Members receive data specific to their community and share in a dialogue about their respective industries. To consider joining, please view the KEOT packets located around the room or talk to one of our staff members here who are with the Center for Economic Development and Business Research. We extend our sincere appreciation to those who serve. They are listed in the back of your packet here, so turn and look at that, the last 2 or 3 pages there, and see if that's something that you would like to join and become a part of. I do want to thank Jeremy and Jill for all their work to put this event together. I thought it was a wonderful afternoon of great information. And at this time, thank you so much for coming. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I hope you take this great information out to be productive in your areas of the economy. Thanks.
That was a presentation by Paul Hedlund on the Salina economy. You're watching Salina Media Connection.